in the valley, the back street where there's a lot of industrial stuff. Oh my God, I was crazy. Yeah.
So let's try again. So excited! Woo! So there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun opportunities in front of us right now, and I think that it feels like there's a group of us that are starting to figure that out and kind of move into this next little step. So this morning, Wade was supposed to talk last week, and I wanted to talk this week, and it's going to kind of set the stage for kind of the next phase of how we do this. We actually have, it's funny, we're going to go over the lineup today, and I was thinking about this because like for like a year, we do the lineup almost every day, every Saturday, and almost everyone in the room knew it. So I was like, here we go again. And I'm like, man, I actually have to print out brand new forms, not just the review forms, because there's more people in the room that don't know it than know it. And so I'm excited about that. And so we're going to learn the foundation of it, but you're going to kind of hear the impact of the practical side first, kind of with that. So the awesome Mike's supposed to.
And how long is it going to go for? 15 or an hour and a half?
Yes.
All right. 15 minutes seems like we're going to talk. So, all right, cool. How's everybody doing? Good. All right, so I'm going to kind of go macro for a little bit, and I'm going to go micro for most of it, okay? So we want to talk about the impact of what's happening, but the way that we think about it basically is like, look, is that the lineup and all the specific stuff in terms of that's the micro, right? That's like, okay, this is the conversations we're having, these are where the people are, right? But it helps me to think about the macro in terms of how do I think about my business, right? And so the one way that we do that basically are the buckets. You guys remember what the buckets are that I like to talk about? Anybody remember? Kind of the three big buckets that we think about when we're running our business? Nope.
Totally forgetting.
Baseline 30, that's right, that's one of them.
Wellness.
Yeah. The big, I call it the big 50, which is the wellness and the 401k, and we'll talk about that in a second. All right, what else? There's one other one, we've been talking about it for the last, the quad, right, the team, right, the quad 4, which is the team getting started.
I don't understand it, that's why I was
Okay, what do you
Big 50 wellness?
Okay, well, the three buckets are the wellness 401k, the baseline 30, and the quad 4, which is the getting started for your team. Okay, those are the buckets that when you're thinking about your business, if you want to work your business, you can stay in those three things forever, right? And then you're working your business, you're growing your business. Okay, this is like the macro idea of it, right? Now, there's another thing that we also have, which goes in the lineup really, which is our what? Our existing clients. Once you get clients, right? You've already spent the effort on getting a client. Okay, those existing clients go into your lineup. They're your advocates. They're your scout team, right? Which we'll talk more about that today, right? So, but the three big buckets for prospecting, for getting new clients, right? For getting new associates is the baseline 30, the wellness 401k, and the quad 4. So if you want to grow your business, you should be spending 90% of your time in those three things. Why? Why is that? Anybody have an idea on that? Why that is?
I would just think if you're doing all those on a regular basis, it's all gonna work together eventually and grow your business.
Yeah, well, that's how we're a people business, right? This is how we get our clients. Okay, we don't advertise. If I was to tell you, oh, we get our clients through advertising, and you spend all your time spending on television commercials. This is how we actually get our clients. This is 90% of your. Once you know what to say and you feel good about you have like an idea of saying something, which is our impact stories, you're spending all of your time here growing your business, right? Because your business has three phases. Your business basically has three phases, right? It has the build phase. It has the grow phase, and then it has the expansion phase. Most of you are in the build phase right now, right? You're in the garage. You're putting stuff together. You're like, I'm building a business, right? You're like, think of it if you're open a restaurant. You're getting the servers. You're getting the menu ready. You're doing all that stuff. You're just getting all that together, and then once you sort of understand how to do that, then how do I get to focus?
Left, top, 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 top knob. There you go.
Okay. Oh. Okay. So then this is the macro view of my business right now, right? Okay. So this is the baseline 30. This is my team, right? There's 15 people in here that are on my team, right? This is what I call the big 50. I don't have 50, I only have 20. These are all the 401ks or the wellnesses. These are my existing clients, right? And then the CEO part goes back to this. The CEO part goes back to the big 50, right? So this is my business. This is the macro view of my business, okay? So it took me time to put this together. It took me time to learn how to put these people in here. So I was like in the build phase, like I was in the learning building phase. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And now I think about my business this way. So I don't spend any time, I shouldn't say that. I don't spend a lot of time trying to think about where someone fits, because I have learned through the lineup the skills of where to put people, right? Because all these people are in the next level down from this is the lineup. Okay, does that make sense?
What do you mean by lineup?
We're gonna go over today, but the lineup is how you think about people
Um,
in your business, right? And how you have conversations with them, right? Because you want to meet people where they are, and the lineup is a tool to understand how to meet people where they are and be 1 degree more intense than them. In order to do that, you have to have to kind of figure out where they are and have language that we're going to talk about, right? But this is a business, okay? Now this is like a district. This is like a district level business right here, right? I've got people I'm working on my team. I've got some clients, okay? I've kind of in the beginning stages of wellness. I've got 1 or 2, and I'm driving towards division now, right? Which is the next level of my contract. In order to do that, I have to have production. I have to actually have my team and myself do business. We're not a charity. We want to make money, right? So the growth process can get you here, okay? But then now it's learning the skills. The only thing that is going to grow this list and get money is making my skills better, okay? So again, when you're thinking about the business, seems like there's a lot of moving pieces. What I'm trying to do this morning is really simplify it so that when in your head, you can take away all of the extraneous stuff so that you're just acting in the right areas. Think about it in sports, right? If you have a too complicated system, like, you know, that it takes if you have a system that's too complicated, you can't work, you can't maneuver. You're like, oh, am I supposed to be catching the ball? Am I supposed to, right? And it's done. The opportunity is lost, right? What we want to do is we want to get you guys to have this to be the simplest in your head possible, so that you're faced with a situation, you're like, I know immediately what to do, and you just go do it. You don't spend a lot of time hemming and hawing about, is this going to work, right? It's going to work because this is all that I'm doing. I'm making lists, and I'm having conversations based off of those lists. That's our business. This is not complicated, okay? It seems complicated because it's a new language, right? Melissa, I'm sure that when you became a stunt woman on set, they talk a little differently on set than they do other places,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's funny, like when I'm texting back and forth with all my creative people, on their texts, they always go back, copy that, right? Why is that? Well, because everyone on a set talks on a walkie-talkie, and they want to make sure that you heard a command so that everyone's clear. You say, copy that, the person on the other end knows, right? That's institutional. Melissa does it, Dorinda does it, Jimmy does it. Now I do it, right?
Yes.
You'll get text from me, but copy that, right?
I'm gonna go 10-1.
I don't know what that is, but yes, it's that's fine. That's fine. Why isn't that? I'm gonna go number 2. Right? So if I was on a set, I would be confused, right? People would be talking a language on walkie-talkies. Everyone would seem to know what they're doing, and I wouldn't know what I'm doing because I've never been on a set before, okay? You may feel right now like, I don't know what I'm doing because there's a lot of moving parts. What I'm trying to tell you is there isn't, all right? If you can get good, and I'll go through an example here in a second, of just remember, you're only working, right now you're all in this build phase, okay? You're building your business right now, and then what you want to do is you want to get it to a business. This is a business, right? I've got existing clients, I have a piece where I generate clients, right? And then I have an ability to serve them. All business, every business, I don't care what business it is, really only has three components, right? It's the, how do I make the phone ring? Okay, how do I get someone to talk to me? How do I make the phone ring? Thank you. How do I make the phone ring, right? How do I service that person or that client? How do I get a referral? or recommendation that then makes the phone ring. That's all business. Okay? How do we make the phone ring? Oh, impact stories with the baseline 30. That's how we make our phone ring. That's all we do. Impact stories with our baseline 30. Something happened in your business, you tell everyone in your baseline 30. 2 months later, something happens in your business, you tell everyone in your baseline 30. At some point, someone's going to say to you, you know, maybe you do this financial services stuff. Well, I have children, I want them to go to college, maybe you can help them with that. Or I know someone. That's how we make the phone ring. Okay? Right? So this is not complicated. This is just lists. You can all, has everyone made a grocery list to go to the store before? Raise your hand if you've made a list to go to the store before. Plenty, raise your hand. Have you made a list ever? You've never your whole life? You go by memory? Man, you're smart. I can't do that. I come back with Oreos and toilet paper. You know, that's when I do that. So, all right. Well, there's a lot of moving parts on this, right? So we might want to start thinking about making a list on this stuff. Because once it's on the list, you never think about it. Okay, so let me give you an example of how this works. Okay, so basically what happened is on last week, right, on Friday, Sean and I did a go back. Okay, where's my list? Sean and I did a go back. With Aaron and Brett. Okay. Aaron and Brett didn't have any life insurance. And they have 6 old 401ks that are still with their old businesses. Okay? So we wrote them up, and we're in the we wrote them a life insurance sale for like $67. Okay? So Sean broke in his license. Melissa, you're next, right? I got an override because Sean's on my team. Sean got paid on the $67, and then we started the process of getting these 6 old 401ks to roll over. There's about $9,000, okay? So Sean's probably going to make, I don't know, $600 off of all this, maybe somewhere between $400 and $600 with the 401k rollovers and the life insurance rollover. Let's just say, okay?
Is that a month or a year or?
Just from this transaction.
Oh, once in a, okay.
Yeah, he's only going to make $600 once for this one time, right? Okay, it's only $600, right? Exactly. So, but Sean, here's the thing: because part of our quad 4 getting started, Sean didn't have anything to do with any of this. I generated everything for him. When we get Melissa's, after Melissa takes 65, and I start getting her taking her on appointments for her license to turn to her market, she's not going to have to do any of that to learn how to generate this business. Okay, as part of the quad 4 getting started, right? So we'll talk about that in a second. But here's the exciting part, right? So Aaron and Brett, I did not know 3 weeks ago. I didn't even know who they were. Okay, but I did a wellness for the nonprofit. They weren't even there. Okay, we did 6 or 7 appointments, right, from the wellness, and they heard about it. And like, oh, I want to do it. And I'm like, okay. And then Sean was available. I'm like, all right, let's go. Right? So this, when you're thinking about how business is generated, the phone rang. I service them. They're very happy. Now there's the rule of 200, right? Anybody can get, so most people get 200 people to a funeral or to a wedding, right? You really pressed it, right? They know 200 people. Right? There's probably 200 between the 2 of them, maybe, that are possible in our market now. Because if we do a really good job for them, we service them, they're in our lineup, we turn them into advocates. They're already advocates because they're clients. We turn them into developed advocates over the next 100 years, them and their children, their children's children, right? They know 200 people that now they will introduce us to that we have credibility with. That's our business. Multiply this by 1,000 and you're rich, or whatever the number is, right? We're not advertising on TV. This is all we do. This is it. That's it. That's it. This is the business, right? And I only did that by focusing on what I call the big 50, because I want 50 working wellness and 401ks. I got a wellness, right? We had some people. We went on an appointment. We were up some money because guess what? The access gap is real. 90% of people you talk to need your help. You just aren't credible enough in their eyes to talk to, because they don't know. It's not because there's nothing wrong with you, they just don't know. If I moved here and nobody knew me and I didn't say anything to anyone, no one would ever know that I was a lawyer. They would just think I was a tall guy who's in his hair. Okay? Come on, that was way funnier than you guys know. So the thing is though, that people know I'm a lawyer because I advertise and I went to law school and I talk about being a lawyer, and so when they have a traffic ticket, they call me. You guys need to do that with regards to your business as well. Okay? So then one other thing, and then, is there any questions about this? Right? No?
The last, I'm sorry, this is the first time I ever see it. Phone reading service and the last one was referrals, you said?
No, well, this is just how all businesses work. This is just a general,
Yes.
But I feel
Yes.
to
yes,
refer.
referrals, recommendations. Yeah, we like to say recommendations more than referrals, but yes, referrals, recommendations. This is all business. Okay? For our specific business, the way that we make the phone ring is we work in our market with impact stories. We tell the baseline 30, we work on getting wellnesses and 401ks, and then we get our people started. Okay? Because when we get our people started, you guys remember the quads? God, I'm gonna curse Bob for this acronym. Can never think about it. What are the quadrants for the getting started?
Oh, gosh.
Okay, first license. Yes. What's the next one? What's number 2?
$200,000.
Okay, $200,000 in assets. Okay, and what else is over here? This is where we see their top 10. Advocates. What else? What's number 3?
Rookie camp.
Yeah, entrepreneurial training camp. Yes. Rookie camp. What's number 4? No, that was 1.
20 people to your team.
3 to 5 people.
And what was that acronym after that?
You don't want to. Okay. So, so Melissa and I right now, we're working in quadrant 1, right? So we went a little bit out of order, and that's my fault. But that's okay because we're still the same universe, and I'm getting better at it, right? She's forgiving, so she's going to forgive me for it, right? So now we're working on her securities licenses and entrepreneurial training camp. We're going to start turning to her market and getting her baseline 30 established, right? And then we're going to start working on getting her a team of 3 to 5 people, and then she's going to do the same thing. Okay? I'm going to take Melissa, once she gets done with the 65, I'm going to start taking her on appointments because we have 1,100 people to go see, right? And however that's going to happen. But I have people to see and I'm going to need help with, and we're going to start taking her on appointments. So she's going to break into her license and she's going to start trying to her market. Okay?
Wait, can I say one thing?
Yes.
One of the questions I had on the test had to deal with, like, the first thing you're gonna fix up for somebody, and the answer was, emergency fund. Anyways, and I thought of you in our appointment that we did go on.
Right.
And the
Because
first thing you wanted to set up for was ad.
for that client, they couldn't do anything with emergency, right? And how is Melissa going to learn that if she's never been on an appointment before and she's been on an appointment with you, right? So I want to get you guys excited. So the energy level is low, right? And that's great. But I want to get you guys excited because if you spend 90% of your time in this area, 2 things are going to happen. 1, your business is going to move forward. And 2, you're going to get better at it. And as you get better at it, your business is going to move more forward. You're going to do it some more, and then you're going to get better at it. And your business is going to move forward, and you're going to get better at it. Make sense? Okay. Questions? No? Okay, thanks.
Wait. So it's funny, we're at and we talked a lot about that. It was really good. We talked about this a bunch, that we're in this really unique space, right? Because that talk helps everyone in this room a month from now. When you have the language and the tools and the understanding, you're like, okay, I understand what I'm doing now. How do I actually do it? The challenge is that we've got 1 meeting and 9 different things that are going on. And so there's a reason why I wanted Wade to start with that conversation. Probably 8%. Tony and Sue got everything that Wade said, right? Everyone else in the room got some degree of it, right? And so part of this is, right, I want everyone in this room to realize why we need to grow our leadership team quickly, because we could be running this time training some of the foundations so that that part of the story becomes a whole lot more effective, right? In this period of time, one of the things that we're going to need to do is everyone learns differently. And so for the next 3 to 6 months, for everyone in this room, and I'll make this Surgeon General's warning a lot over the next 6 months, it's really important how we listen. There's going to be things that we don't know because the words just don't make sense to us. Here's my strongest recommendation. And this is personality and this is just timing. Write it down. Don't get stuck on a phrase or an idea you don't get in that moment. Because you can write it down and then that's where the learning is going to come from. We can always go back and revisit and go, where does this go? One of the things that I've learned, right, working with kids and working with adults and stuff like that, is that, and again, this is not critical, this is we are going to be rolling out a whole bunch of stuff, and there's 2 things that are happening. Sue's going to come over the next one and talk a lot about the process of where things are going. Wade's going to talk about a lot of the process of where things are going, right? I'm going to talk about a lot of the process of where things are going, and then there's people going, wait a second, I've got to get to B. And both of those are going to occur at the same time. The easiest way for us to collapse those time frames is for us to realize what holes are they, right? Because there are 2 ways to learn something, to listen, right? Here's a story that's going, here's something that we don't understand. We stop until we understand it. Well, the rest of the story is continuing to go, but we're not hearing it because we're stuck here. It's a normal process because we're like, wait, I can't know the rest of the story until I know this line. The challenge is that where we are a year from now, this will be a whole lot easier because we'll be able to run a training up to this wall, build this in, and then have another training that's going on here and another training that's going on here. Does that make sense? The problem is right now, and look, this is it. This is the best way I know how to help us get through this process quickly. Is if you get stuck, if somebody says something right? Wade was like, what's the analogy, right? And it's a weird word and that stuff like that. There are people that'll shut down and stop listening because that's the point where they're like, I don't understand. Wait a second, something happened that I don't understand. Is that I don't understand? And the next 3 minutes of the conversation is lost because we're stuck here. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that's a silly example, but it's going to happen a lot over the next 6 months because we've got different friction points that are going on. We're trying to learn how do we do something, how do we teach it, and how do we teach to teach it. So there's multiple things occurring at the exact same time in a room where ideally a year from now, we've got a room that's running for this and we're laying the foundations of language, and then we're running a loom for here that's learning how to apply it, and then there's running here. Right? That's why we kept this space so that by the time this group walks into this room, they've got the foundations of the language, and so now they're learning to apply it. And then when they walk into this room, they're learning how to teach it. And when they walk into this room, right, they're learning how to do all 3, right? And we've got the foundational pieces of that. Is this clear? Yeah. Okay. But we don't have these rooms yet. Well, we have the rooms. We don't have the leaders that can actually do it, and we don't have enough people to put them in. And so what we have to do is we have to give the smorgasbord over the next little bit. There's 2 problems. Problem number 1, what's really easy to do is for the speakers in the room to worry so much about these walls that they only teach up to this room, or they only tell the story up to here, or they spend 10 minutes trying to fix that wall in the middle of a 15-minute conversation. That doesn't serve the room because we actually need all 3 boxes to be running at the same time. And so if we get too concentrated on a phrase we don't understand, then we hold the rest of the room back. Does that make sense? Yeah. And if we don't create a space to go back and revisit, then we don't actually bring people up. We're in a challenging time. This is we are 14-year-olds. right? We got things going on our body. We're growing faster than we know. Our clothes don't fit. Our feet are too big, right? We are, right? We just hit, like puberty just started, right? And so it's like my 15-year-old son 4 weeks ago was a half inch shorter than I am. He's now an inch and a half taller than I am. In a month, he's falling standing still right now. He can't figure out what is going on. He's bumping into things that he's never had to worry about before, right? And he's just starting. That's us. We're not toddlers. Professionally, we got this. The skills, the resources. Like we're like, oh, like, you know, in the Jewish tradition, right, at 13, you have your bar mitzvah, like you're a man, you're a woman, like you're an adult at 13 in the Jewish religion, right? It's this, right, hey, I've accomplished something. I have no idea what to do with the strength and power, like where things, does that make sense? And so part of this is we need active participation. And the participation is, I'm going to beg all of us that if we hit a wall, the best thing to do for us is to have a notepad that says, what is this? Write it down and then move on. And then we go back and revisit, send an email, ask questions, wherever it is, because that'll serve you. That'll serve us as an organization. We want to answer every question. We want to fill in every blank. And we don't want anyone in this room to be left behind for 3 to 5 minutes, because if we get caught up on this, we miss the application part of this that actually will go back and give it context. Now, again, we're going to solve for this. I promise you, within the next year, we've got these different rooms running and people are coming in and we've got a vocabulary meeting, right? And we're going to sit down and for 2 weeks, we're like, let me teach you the words you need to know. Here's what baseline is. Here's what this is. Here's what this is. Then we'll role play and play games just on vocabulary, right? And so when someone walks in and they hear a story, they're like, oh, I might not know exactly how it applies, but I understand the meaning. All right, good. Here's where we go. We don't have that yet. Right? So that's what's coming. That's what creating what we're doing is a part of. 5 years from now, when people talk to you and they're like, oh my God, you were so lucky to have been there at the beginning, you're going to look at them and say, let's call it blessed. I'm not sure lucky's the word. Right? Because this is hard. What we're trying to do is hard. And we have to accept and fall in love with that grind part. We cannot apologize for the fact that we are rewriting an entire program from the Word. Like, we're completely re-engineering this thing. And so that's incredibly exciting. And it's hard. And it's supposed to be hard. It doesn't have to be impossible, right? We don't need it any harder. But that's where we've got to go, and that's the culture that we want to be able to create. And so 1, right, write it down. 2, ask. When the meeting's over, here are my 4 questions. Somebody, can you explain to me what this is? And there's going to be varying degrees of those answers to where we go. Does that make sense? Because that was the exact thing we wanted to kind of expose, here's where this is. Right? Because there's multiple layers of the conversation. So freaking exciting. Okay. All right. Okay. So there are a handful of things that I am proud of. Professionally. A couple things I'm not that proud of. No, I'm very little I'm not proud of. But there's a couple of things like from a professional, like what we've built as an organization, what we've put together. This is easily in the top 5 of the most important things we have. It is from a team building perspective. It is the team building just specific, like under that context, it is the single most important component we have when it comes to building a team. Right? I believe that wide, right, is one of the most important things when it comes to planning, right? I believe that our business-to-business platform is one of the most important things when it comes to explaining what it is we do and our game plan, right? But when it comes to building any team, not a Primerica team, this is any organization, right? I've run this through churches, I've run this through Boy Scouts. I've run this through different companies. Like this, it gets a little bit hinky in a traditional company, but it doesn't. Like there's the foundation of what we do. Because it does this, right? And it looks, right? This is one of those things. These are the multiplication tables. Multiplication tables are incredibly complicated until they're not. Right? Yeah.
Can I just say one thing in relation to this list to that?
Okay.
This is the inventory, and this goes on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nobody gets confused. This does not replace that. This is just the inventory, and that's what you use. This goes on that.
Right? And so this is what we call our line. And what this tool is designed to do is three major things. One, it's designed to compartmentalize your people so that you can be in alignment when you're talking to them. There is a philosophy that we absorb in this organization, and it's called 1 degree more intense. This is the tool that allows people to fundamentally be 1 degree, only 1 degree more intense than whoever it is you're talking to. If I'm 50 times more aggressive or excited or visionary or whatever than Suki can process, anything more than 1 degree more, I'm only doing for me because she can't digest it. If you walk into, right, Tony, you've sat with people and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to tell you everything I know. At some point, they can't process anymore. Are you doing it for them at that point, or are you doing it for you? You're doing it for you. So our goal is to be able to fill somebody's cup and maybe have a little run that's over just so that they know that there's abundance there. But at the end of the day, I don't need to keep filling if the glass is full. I'm going to let them consume it, let them digest it, come back for more. This is the tool that is designed to do that, to help you with that. Step one. Step two. It is an action plan for you as the upline to know how to talk to somebody about what are the topics and what is the mindset when I'm talking to them. So it gives you the ability, there's a deliberate action plan, an action word in there for you to be like, oh, this person's a blank, here's the goal for me with that. And then the third is it's designed for you to be able to breathe, because you don't have to force anyone in any one place, because there's always a place for them. If, like, in my old business, right, if you weren't in, you were out. Well, if I work really hard to create a relationship with you, right, to meet you, to follow up, to do all this other stuff, and all of a sudden I ask you, hey, are you interested? And you finally tell me no, that means you're out. That's wasted time and energy. And so what's easy for me to do is to over-pursue, to over-convince, to try to make it sound better, or try to push, or try to do this, because I'm like, well, screw it. You're about to be out, so I'm going to go all in, because if you're not in, you're going to be out, so F it. Let's go out with a blaze of glory, right? Which leaves carnage. What this is designed to do is designed to give you a place to breathe, to say, I don't need you anywhere because I have you somewhere. And that becomes a whole lot easier if you can think in the line. Now, this piece of paper looks confusing potentially, right? Because you're like, holy shit, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. And there is. Guess what? Building an organization is complicated. Like, we can't be scared because things are hard. What Wade said is, you're going to do this, and then you're going to get better. And then you're going to do it, and you're going to get better. And then you're going to do it, and you're going to get better. As long as you're open, after you do it the first time, realize that might suck. I'm open to realizing I might not have done it perfectly. I'm going to get better because I'm going to apply what I learned, what I didn't understand. And so there's an opportunity for that, right? One of my biggest challenges with my old Primerica business is we had an incredibly low standard on people. People are like, oh, you can't make it too complicated because people can't handle complicated. Bullshit. People can't handle confusion. If you don't understand why something is the way it is, it's easy to not give your best at it. But if you're like, oh, my life's easier if I understand this thing, okay, there's a platform for us to do. Now, if I can't get somebody to learn a piece of paper, how the hell am I going to get them to build a business? Fair point? Okay, so now, the good news is that we learned in 3 stages. We learned what something is, then we learn what it means, and then we learn how it works. So Wade just showed you a portion and component of how it works. That's a practical application of these 2 pieces. Okay, the beauty is that I've spent a significant amount of time in business teaching people fundamentals on learning how to learn what something is. Now, I have a question. Will you trust me?
Yes.
What if it's annoying? That's always a fair question because I'm incredibly annoying. Right? Because I know a handful of things. One, I know that you can outwork talent in life. Right? Maslow, Maslow? No, that's hierarchy of needs. Norman.
10,000 hours.
Yeah, 10,000 hours. The premise of every study is you put in 10,000 hours of anything, you will accomplish mastery level. That isn't a talent thing. That is an effort thing. Effort is annoying to people until it's not. I've never been the fastest. I've never been the smartest. I've never been, but man, my ass can show up.
Effort's more annoying for people who have a lot of talent.
That's the reason it's not annoying to me, I guess.
So easy.
Effort is so easy. Yes. So, okay. This is the way to learn this. Right here. It takes a week. It's 1 week to know this. Takes a week. It's annoying. But next Saturday, anyone in this room could come back and fill out every word here. Now, there's a couple things that are really important. There's a couple of reasons why people don't do this. Reason number 1, people think that they can outsmart repetition. And I've never met anyone that can outsmart repetition. You learn differently. Bullshit. Hey, there's actually cilia in your brain that gets stronger as the connections go. The more often the connections connect, your brain actually gets tighter. Your brain doesn't add brain cells, but it actually strengthens it's called a cartilage, where the connections in your brain get stronger and faster. Just like muscles through this. Repetition is what builds that. You don't outsmart repetition. Okay. Number 2, the reason why people don't do this. They want to learn what it means while they're learning what it is. Learning what it means while learning what it is slows down the learning of what it is. What do you mean? If you could write every word on this piece of paper and know exactly where it goes and have no idea what any of the words mean, I could teach you the meanings of this 10 times faster than if I'm trying to get you to understand what the words are, what the words mean, and why they are where they are. 100 times faster.
It's like classic Karate Kid.
1,000%.
Classic.
Wax on.
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off.
1,000%. I can teach you what these words mean and why they are 1,000 times faster if you just know the words that go where they go, even if you don't know what the words mean. But the reason why people don't is that they feel, well, these aren't complicated. I need to understand what it means while I'm learning what it is, which slows down the learning of what it is and eliminates the meaning of what it means, because how can you know what something means if you don't actually understand what it is? So think about, essentially, right, from a picture standpoint, what's happening is, I live 8 miles from here. If I have 2 cars here, imagine doing this. Driving one car a block, getting out of the car, walking back the block, driving the other car 2 blocks, getting out, going back, getting the first car, driving the 2 blocks, walking back. I could get 2 cars home that way. True? Or I could say, Tony, drive my car home and then I'll drive you back. Those are 2 different approaches, right or wrong. If you try to learn what something means, why you're trying to learn what it is, you will slow down learning what it is and you will confuse what it means. That's why you're learning the charts the way you're learning. Right? Once you've got them down, now we can start discussing that. If you're trying to, now, I'm going to run through the lineup because it's nice to have a frame of reference. You're not trying to go in blind, but at the end of the day, we want you to be able to say, oh, that makes sense. Let me learn. Y'all with me? So, if we can build a culture of a large group of people who get good at learning what something is and then coming back and having what it needs, and we build the confidence, when there's new people come in, it's not just me up here going, here's what's going on, because I can give this talk, pretty good at it. But it's really nice when people are like, okay, here's what you do. And we've got 50 people that are like, yep, you get this shit down in a week, and then we get to discuss it. Because it takes a week to learn this page. And it takes about 90 days to fully understand. And then it takes a significant amount of time to be able to run it. I think that's just the reality. But it's a whole lot more fun discussing the nuances if we understand what it is. Go with me? So, was that effective? We'll see. We'll be here next Saturday. We'll see. But here's what I'm telling you. This packet, and I can email it to anyone, you can print it out, we'll print out more. This packet is the answer. If you will do this packet, you will multiple times, right? If you do this packet, right? And so usually what I'll do is I'll have somebody learn it on here, and then you print out a bunch of these. And if you do as many of these things as you can, all right, is at least 1 in the morning, 2 during the day, and 1 at night for the next 7 days, you will get this down. It's how everything's done. So I'm going to hand out, I don't have one for Tom. Now, that's yours.
Well, the whole package.
The whole package is. Let me, oh, here, no. Are there, I thought it was full. I'll go look. Okay, I'll print it out. So we've got it. Okay.
Is it supposed to have 2 sets of 6?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. So, what each of those pages are is a breakdown of a section of this. So this is the final through this process. Now, don't worry, before you leave, I've got the notes, right? Because this isn't about like testing, this is about learning, right? Now, I have multiple of these. And then I have the key on this one, and I forgot to print it. No, I guess I have the key on it. It's the last. And well, it's the same.
Oh,
Okay. So, all right. So let me go through and have this conversation. Now I'll be completely candid with you. I might not have every word right now. It's been a long time since I've done an alignment. I sat with Mondo and Claudia yesterday, and it took me a half a beat to be like, oh shoot, okay, what word goes here? Right? In terms of the exact word. Right? This is one of those things. It reminded me, oh, we have to do this more often because I 1000% think of the lineup and I can pull it, but again, repetition is the mother of learning, right? And so we're going to put this together. Now, here's how the best way to learn how this goes, okay? One, start on the top line. When you're filling these things out, you always start on the top line. So here, start. Right? Because this packet is built for repetition. It's built for you to write out the first line, and I don't have one of those packets, right? But it's designed to write out the first time and write out the first line, and then write out the first line, and then write out the first line. And then you write out the first line in the action words, if you look at line 3 with the brackets, right? This packet's designed for you to build repetition. Now, here's what happens. People get lazy. They're like, yes, sir.
No, I was raising my hand.
Oh,
I'm lazy.
People get lazy, and so they're like, well, I don't need to write this out, the top line, I know it. This is designed for you to have this down. Again, will you separate yourself? Like, you understand, you can outwork talent through this process. Okay, so let me go through, and I always start with this, right? So we start, the second line in is our farm system. Farm. Actually, I will. I won't write. Because you can't read it anyway. So, I guess in learning it, we'll go this way. So the first line is our scout team. Our second line is our farm system. Now, you know what? I'm going to tell this story. You can take your notes and we'll go through it. Like write your notes as we do it. But I'm going to tell this story because I think it'll be a whole lot more fun. Okay. So in our business, right? We've got people. I need to figure out the pen system. Okay. Our farm system is everyone in our world. All of your friends, all of your family, everyone that you know. Right? At the end of the day, we have people in our life that are hot. Not that one. Right? There are people in our life that if you call and say, hey, can we get together? They're going to say yes. They're going to say yes even if they don't want to because of the relationship that you have with them. There are people in your life that we call warm. If you say, wait, can we meet? They're going to be like, sure. This week's not good. But man, 2 weeks from now, I'd love nothing more than for us to get together. There are people in our life that we call lukewarm. If I go to Pete's Coffee with Wade right now, right, there's probably 25 people that'll smile at Wade and ignore me. Not because I'm an ignorable person, but because they have some Pete's Coffee community. They might not know his name, they might not know anything, but every morning he goes in and he grabs his Pete's. If there's someone there, you start recognizing somebody, right? That's a lukewarm relationship. It's not based on anything but a familiarity and acceptance. There are people that are frozen. Essentially, these are hot, warm, or lukewarm people that you haven't seen for 6+ months. And then there are cold, which isn't on this line, which I need to add. And these are complete strangers that you're out and you happen to meet. See, if you think about it, that's everyone in our world. Anyone that you run around in a short period of time, there are good friends that'll do anything for you. There are people that'll fit you in their schedule. There's people that you kind of have some relationship based on nothing but that. There's people that you used to have a relationship that you no longer have a relationship. And there's people that you have no idea who they are and they have no idea who you are. That's the world. And so we did nothing else except give you some way to frame who it is you were thinking about and talking about. Your life gets a whole lot easier. Now, if you're talking about somebody who's a friend of yours that'll do anything for you, and you're talking to Wade and you're like, man, this relationship was incredibly hot. That instantly tells Wade, I know certain things about this dynamic. If you're like, yeah, it's funny, we've been really close, but it's a warm relationship, man. Every time things come up, right, we just kind of keep pushing things out. That tells the dynamic. Why is that important? If I'm calling to schedule an appointment with somebody, but the relationship is warm, then I'm going to say, I'd love for us to get together. This week's not very good for me. I'm kind of crazy. Why don't we look for the first week of April? Because if they're going to push me off anyway, I don't actually want them to push me off. I want to create a space for them to feel comfortable. That make sense? If something's hot, I'm like, man, I got to come over. I got to see you tonight. It allows us to start having practical relationships. Again, I'm going to explain what it means. Your job isn't to fully understand it. Your job is to see that there's context and learn hot, warm, lukewarm, frozen, and cold. Now, my paper that I gave you was screwed up, and so I will fix that and we'll go through, because the top line isn't hot and it might be on your thing. So apologize for screwing up. But we have what's called our bullpen above hot. So it'll look, so it goes farm system, bullpen, right? Shoot, I have not done this in a long time.
Bullpen now then.
Yeah, I know. So this is going to take a little longer. I am completely out of practice on this. I'm like trying to fit, because we're so comfortable with this, I am completely screwing this thing up. That's funny. Okay, so we'll go here. We've got our farm system. Our farm system's red down here. So we've got hot. No, that's this.
Yeah.
Where am I here? Here.
In the blue lines,
See, this is all confusing.
right there where you're coming.
Bullpen.
Okay.
So
Okay, so we've got our hot and our warm, our lukewarm, and our frozen, and we have to add one in our cold. That's how that line works. So, and then bullpen goes here. Okay, now I completely screwed this up. No, I completely understand. Isn't it funny when you understand something?
I don't think they don't have that page.
I just have the.
It's the last page. Do you not have that?
No.
Here, I'll give you this, and I have to. Wait, do it. Oh,
I don't know, I'm looking at that. Oh, no, yeah, you got this there.
oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There may be some down there.
Do you have the last page?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay,
It's colored, it looks like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay,
What is LW stand?
okay. So we've got, there's three categories on the farm system: our bullpen, our now list, and our then list. Okay, jump the ball here. This is why we have our teaching tools, right? Our bullpen, our now list, and our then list. Our now list, these are people that I'm going to see when. Now, we've got our then list. What's our then list? People we're going to see then, right? So Cole, Tony, as I said, like this is where we, like, this, so I'm going to give a perfect explanation as to why understanding the meaning shuts down our learning, right? In terms of this. 10 seconds ago, as I was writing this out, I wrote cold, right? And the people in the room didn't struggle. Tony's like, what's cold? I don't know what cold is. Tony's, for the last 2 minutes, has been going, what's cold? There's something in here I don't understand. There's something I don't understand. There's something I don't understand. And now listening and understanding that all of a sudden, here's a space. That's a friction point that we have to figure out. When something doesn't come up, you write it up, and we go through and we fix it. That's an example of what I was talking about. Thank you for participating. Right? So, here's the thing. I forgot, man, I am excited right now. I am like fired up excited. Because we're gonna run trainings on this stuff. Like, this is a critical component. And I was like, oh, we'll do this in like 20 minutes. We won't do this in 20 minutes. Like, this was a month process. It won't take us a month now because we'll get it. But I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, I'm excited. Okay, so we've got our farm system. Our farm system's our market. Essentially, we've got our now list and our then list. Our now list is made up of our hots, which will say yes, our warms that'll say sure, our lukewarms that'll say hi, our frozens that'll be like, oh wow, and our cold will be, we have to come up with an action word for cold.
Yeah, before we used the same as the warm, which wasn't right, so.
Yeah, no, something cold. Something like, why are you talking to me?
Huh?
Huh? Yeah. Huh? Okay, that's good. Now, why? So these are what this is designed to do is for you to have an action word. If somebody's hot, what makes them hot? They'll say yes. What makes them warm? They'll be like, sure. What's lukewarm? They're like, hi. What's frozen? Oh wow, I haven't talked to you in a long time. And what's cold? Huh?
Leaving you.
Right? Right? Well, if you start breaching the subject, people get a little bit strange, right? In terms of that. Right? But what it does is it starts to create trigger words for you to start going, oh, in the beginning, when you're learning this, you can let their responses teach you backwards. And then as you start thinking in the lineup, you actually take the action words going forward. And so it allows us to start triggering where these things are, because ultimately we want to move people to our bullpen where they will say yes or sure, because not everyone's going to be hot. I don't need somebody, right? Wade didn't need Aaron and Brett to get hot for them to sit with them. Right? That relationship had to be there. There was an interest. There was yeah, we can do this, right? They're curious on the stuff, right? Warm's good, but what they need to be able to do is hear you. What does that mean? This is a key point that we're going to talk about with this, right? So you need to know that the word is hear. The functional word for bullpen is they can hear you. If someone has a mental picture of who you are, if Wade's market used to think of Wade as a lawyer. When Wade started talking about Primerica, that was a misaligned expectation. They had a hard time hearing him. So he spent a significant amount of time going in his baseline, developing a relationship, introducing a shift in their mindset so that it created a space for them to hear his next adventure. If he presents the adventure before someone can hear it, it's going to wave over us. We miss it and move on. And so part of the skill is to learn how to move people from the now list to the bullpen. And then we move the then list to the now list, which is what you've watched Wade do over the last handful of months is move people from to the next phase. Now, this is our action word line. So you work your farm system. What do you do with your farm system? You work your farm system. You work your farm system. You don't play with your farm system. You work your farm system. You work your farm system. Now, when somebody gets to the bullpen, you're going to say something along the lines of, hey, I realize you don't actually know what I'm doing. I'd love to share it with you. What are they going to say? They're going to say yes or sure. And why are they going to say yes or sure? Because they're open to hearing you. This isn't complicated. Now, when someone's open to hearing you and you say, can we get together because I want to share this with you, and they say yes or sure, you're going to go sit with them. And you're going to go tell our story. Don't worry about what our story means yet. That's an irrelevant part of this component. Right? This works for churches. This works for boys. It doesn't matter what the story is. It does matter to them, but in learning the lineup. Don't get stuck there. So you're going to go tell our story. You're going to ask somebody, is this something that you can see value in? There are two answers. Yes or no? This isn't complicated. If yes, you're going to go that way. If no, you're going to go that way. There's a place for everyone. Hey, Billy, would you be open to the opportunity? No, it's not for me. Fantastic. I know exactly where to put you. Hey, Billy, is this something? Hey, this might actually work for me. I might be interested. Fantastic. I know exactly what the next step is. If they say yes, they're open. Not, oh my God, yes, I'm totally in. I'm going to change my life. Let me go full time. It's not. Billy, is this something that would make sense to you? Yeah, great. Billy's going to move to the draft board. For those of you that are like, I don't like sports, you're going to hate this, but I don't care if they're going to. Because this is based on professional sports organizations. Right? You're going to move to the draft board. You're going to hear us talk a lot about who's on your draft board. When you tell me that someone's on your draft board, I know certain things about them. One, I know they like and trust you. The first line is like and trust. How do I know they like and trust you? Because they were on the bullpen. Yeah, I can door knock and get them in. They don't have to like and trust me, right? The opportunity. If I'm working my farm system and I get them on my bullpen, and that's when I'm going to ask them to come visit, if I'm talking to them and they're on my draft board, they must like and trust me because we run them through this process. They have had to have heard our story. How do I know, if you tell me someone's on the draft board, that they have heard our story? Because you have had to have met with them because they had to be in a position to hear you because they were on your bullpen. If they're on your draft board, they have had to have been on your bullpen. Does it take 10 years to get on your bullpen? No, it might take 7 minutes. It might be never. But if you're working, if someone's on your draft board, there's a couple things that we know. One, they like and trust you. Two, they've heard your story. The third thing we know is that, and this is the sentence, I have to write this out. This is one of the fundamental sentences. They believe that Primerica could be a positive impact in their lives. It's written, when you do this, as believe PRI positive. But the sentence is that they believe that Primerica could be a positive impact in their life. So, you worked your farm system, you got on your bullpen, you told them our story, you asked them, hey, is this something you could keep your options open to see? Their answer was yes. You know how I know their answer was yes? Because they got on the draft board. Their answer was no. Would they have gone on the draft board? No, they'd have gone the other direction. Now, there's a couple fun little things to think about with this sentence. There are two components to the sentence. One, they have to be open to something. This is really important. They have to be open to something before they have to be open to Primerica. Being open to Primerica is actually the second component. And this is one of the mistakes that new and people who forget this make a lot. What they try to do is they try to get somebody open to Primerica. Try to get them open to the Primerica opportunity. And I don't believe you can ever get someone open to the Primerica opportunity. I think it's really hard to get someone open to any particular opportunity. I think it's a whole lot easier to figure out if somebody's open to an opportunity. And what are the keys and components that they're open to? And then does Primerica have the resources necessary to satisfy the things that they need inside? Right? So they have to believe, in order to believe that Primerica could, they have to believe something could be a positive impact in their life. Which also means for them to be open to something, they have to believe that they have a space for there to be tangible improvement in their life. Listen, if you didn't think, man, I'm getting older, right? My body, my opportunities, might have more surgeries. Shit, there's got to be something that I can do. Then when Dorinda talks about this doesn't even it doesn't even enter your brain because you're like, oh, that's something she's doing because you're not open to it. There's no space for there to be anything that's a positive impact in your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But the moment there was a space in your world where you're like, man, I'm open to say if the right thing came around, okay, now let's discuss what the definition of the right thing is. Hey, if there's a way for passive income, way for this, way for this, way for this, is that something? Does this make sense? Right? So from telling the story, again, your job isn't to memorize this particular thing, but it's to hear how all of these pieces come together. Right? And then there's a last part. It's my favorite. It makes them on the draft board, is they have a hurdle. Now, it's really important. Not an issue. I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to play one. My job isn't to, if your parents didn't love you, that's not my job. If you can't feed your family, it's not my job. But I can help you with your hurdles. Now, there are 3 that we know of. What's a hurdle? Something that's rationalizing in your brain that's potentially stopping you. Could you see the positive primarily be a positive impact in your life? Yes, I totally can. Is this something you want to get started? There's a hurdle. Now, here's one of those components. One of the things, I think one of the biggest breakthroughs that Wade's had in the last year was we have a tendency to not want our people to struggle. We want things to be easy. And so when someone comes in, the moment someone's like, hey, what about it? And they ask a question that we perceive could be argumentative or defensive, it's easy for us to get protective because we're like, oh, it's supposed to be smooth sailing. Primerica's 100-meter hurdle dash. You clear a hurdle, you just keep running until you find the next one. It's not the elimination of the hurdles. It's the teaching how to clear it. Time, money, and ability. Mono, what are the 3 hurdles?
Time, money, ability.
Time, money, and ability. I'm telling you guys, when you're sitting down with somebody and they're on your graph board and you're talking to them and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, this makes sense. Right now the kids are at that age and I'm working on coaching their softball and I'm doing this. That's a time hurdle. The moment you identify it, you're like, oh, I know how to clear that because we teach you how to clear that. Man, this sounds so good. It's just, man, the $124 right now and then the $25 a month. Oh, we have a money hurdle. I've never been really good with people. I've never been considered a salesperson. I'm just not. Oh, we have an ability hurdle. Okay. So now when you start learning the training, you're like, oh, what do we learn in training? Well, one of the things we learn in training is how do you clear hurdles? As a secret, they're actually all the same hurdle. Is it valuable enough? Is it valuable enough for me to figure out the time? Is it valuable enough for me to come up with the money? Is it valuable enough for me to develop the skill? They're all value issues, value hurdles. And so we have an opportunity. Why we will differentiate ourselves as an organization, even is because most people try to fix time hurdles by addressing the time, or money hurdles by addressing the hurdles or ability, and they turn into salespeople. You try convincing them that the time will be okay, versus understanding that the investment of time will be worth it.
And the nice thing is you only have to learn one way to do it. It's the same response for all 3 hurdles, and everyone has a hurdle, and once you find the hurdle, you move into the value plan.
It's oh God, I had forgotten now. Okay, you develop Your draft board. The action word for you is I'm developing my draft board. Why? I'm not trying to convince them to get in. I'm developing a relationship, I'm moving them on, I'm hearing them, I'm growing my skill, right? This is my inventory of growth. I can never convince someone to do something. I can simply be available when they're convinced. You with me? Now, when someone clears their hurdle, they move to the roster. We're going to go about 10 minutes late. I just want to get some of this out, and then we'll stop the play. Right? We move them to the roster. Now, the roster is really simple. All of you understand it. They do their hours, their quizzes, and their exams.
What is under that for? I'm just looking down. Oh,
The action word is develop.
okay, thank you.
Yep. So the brackets, the parentheses, are action words. So Melissa, what's going to happen over the next couple months, because you're going to start working on this? Wade's going to start talking to you in the lineup. And so when you bring up a point, right, on something, I was talking to so-and-so, he's going to start using the lineup as a reference point. Manu, Claudia, when I talk to you, I'll start using the reference point as that. So if you're talking to someone on your draft board, I'm like, so what's that action word? What are you doing with them? Oh, I'm developing a relationship. Okay, great. Right? And so that's one of those key components, right, as we start doing. That's how we integrate this into the thinking process, right? Which is kind of exciting. Right? So for the roster, it's their hours and quizzes and their exams. It's access.support and Sue, right? It's our saviors on those things. And then the second component is we want to get them emotionally committed and connected to our crusade and our support system. Emotionally connected. It says committed, but it should be connected. Emotionally connected to our crusade and to our support system. Suki is on our draft board, or on our roster. She turned in her IBA, she's done with their hours quizzes, getting ready for exams. When we talk to Suki, we're talking to her how amazing Sue is, how amazing the class is, how amazing the support system is, what's going on. And then we're talking about the impact that we've had on clients and the different impacts that we've got. We're telling stories about what it is we do for families and how amazing it is that she doesn't have to do all of this alone. Because the stronger you feel about the time you are investing is going to change people's lives and you're not the only one in the darkness, it allows us to build strength.
What does that stand for?
Support system. The action word on your roster is you support it. Do me a favor with me. The biggest mistake that everyone in this room will make as you start building a team is you will get people on your team and there will be a part of your brain that wants to treat them like they're here. Because they're going to sound like they're incredibly committed. And so we have a tendency to listen to them. God, I am totally doing this, man. I want you to push me, man, I'm telling you, and you tell me what to do, I'm going to do it. The reason that this keyword support is vital is this is a choke collar for you as a trainer, as the builder of your team. Your job is to support the people on your roster. You're not to coach them, you're not to drive them, you're supporting them because they are all over the place. There's a key phrase that they say on the roster. I think I might want to do this. What do you think, man? How's this thing work? Oh my God, man, I think I want to do this. Melissa, that's not, man, if you recruit someone and then they're like, man, I'm going to do this with you, man, I think I want to do this with you, man. This sounds awesome. Does that sentence sound like I'm operating from strength?
Yeah, it sounds like.
It sounds like it. But when you look at the words, There's a difference between I think and I know, isn't there?
Yep.
There's a difference between I might and I do, isn't there? And there's a difference between want and need, isn't there?
Yep.
See, people on the roster come in and they say words that sound like they're committed. But how in God's name can they be committed? They have no idea what it is we're asking them to do. One of the biggest challenges in Primerica is people listen to the words that people say and they hear the words that they want to hear. If you know, I know that Suki's like, man, I think I want to do this. My job through this period of time is to help her systematically move from I think I want to I know I want to. From I think I want to I know I need to. From I think I need to, right? We want to go from I might to I do, from I want to I need, from I think to I know. You can pass your 65? I think I'm gonna pass this test. Is that how you feel now? Or are you like, oh hell no, I'm passing this damn test?
Yes, and
There's a
then
shift in your brain.
Yeah.
When you took it, when you were studying 3 weeks ago, the shift was, man, I think I got my 6. Now you're like, hell no, I'm gonna pass this damn thing. What do you think the likelihood of you passing it is? Because there's a shift in your brain. Our job is to always walk people through this shift. We have a tendency to hear the first sentence as though it's the second one. It's not. But then, when it shifts, we've had a little shift in the last week, haven't we? When it shifts, the world changes. We have some momentum when it shifts. Old school language. You don't got them till you got them. Then when you got them, you got them. Until the next hurdle. You're going to nail that 65. We got things to do. Guess what? Another one's going to pop up, though. We are okay with that. Then the last part, I just want to get to player. Then they pass their test. And they become a player. Congratulations. We celebrate. We do the happy dance. We're fired up. Man, you're ready to go. You're excited. You have any idea what you're doing? No. So step 1 is rookie camp. You're going to go see your top 10. You heard Wade talk about that. Why? We have to put a support system in here. We've got to help you get paid, right? You run through the quadrant, right? Are getting started. We're going to get you through rookie camp. Then you're going to go see your top 10. You're fired up, but after your top 10, most of us don't have a top 50 because we're over here. And so developing our farm system takes a little bit of time. And so how do we manage that time? In our head, the expectations in our head. We're like, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you through entrepreneur training camp. You're going to get your securities licenses, which will take 4 months. Oh, wait, you mean if I focus on my securities licenses, and that's going to take me 4 months, and if I understand my lineup, and if I start developing my lineup, and it takes time to develop my lineup, but I've got 4 to 6 months to be able to get my securities license out and develop my lineup. When I get my securities license, my lineup is more developed. I can actually take them and work them. Oh, wow. There's a nice overlap. Through that, you're going to learn the lineup. And then you're going to learn our playbook. Here's what you say. Here's how you say. Here's the tools. Here's the resources. And then you become what's called a game day player, where you start learning how to build your business from quarter to quarter. Building your business from quarter to quarter is a skill.
Game day.
Game day play. So, I am going to hand out these to you, and I got you. And what I would like for the people in the room to have farm system, draft board, oh, sorry. There's an action word. This is so important. So important. The action word for player is to instruct. Remember, the action words are for you for your people, not you, the associate. So, wage job with Melissa. Melissa is a player in entrepreneurial training camp. I skipped over rookie camp. She's in entrepreneurial training camp. What's Wade's job when he's talking to Melissa? To instruct her. Every conversation is a teaching conversation. Every conversation is a teaching conversation, building tools, building resources within the business. Like, it doesn't mean you can't have like you know what I mean. But like when the business comes around, right? If we're talking about what are your goals, it's how are you planning them, not are you executing on them. Because it's all the skill of learning for your players. So our action word for our farm system is to work our farm system. We develop our draft board, we support our roster, and we instruct our players. So by next Saturday, what I would love is for at least these 5 groups coming in. Now, for the overachievers, being that you have the full cheat sheet, it wouldn't hurt if you just memorize across the board. If you do that, here's the easiest way to do it. Start on line 1, and literally you just start and write it out. And then you go through. If you follow that packet and you print out 5, 6, 7, 8 of those packets and you do it, you'll walk in next Saturday understanding what the scout team's all about and having no idea what it works, and it makes explaining this a whole lot easier. It allows us to walk through and tell this story. Because you don't actually, if you think about it, you don't need to know what PPPP means to be able to write that out, do you? But if all of a sudden you're like, oh, you're a player with players, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Because you already know that it's PPP. And S is a starter with starters, right? So you don't actually have to know. Does anyone, based on that, know what this is? It's a coach with, whoa, complicated.
Rocket science.
So it took a little bit longer, went through, but I'm telling you, we're going to spend some time over the next couple of weeks. We're going to get this thing down. We're going to move this thing to the next. It's time we start thinking in the lineup and start moving this thing. So let's let them know what's all about. Big.
So it's actually, if we plan these sheets, right, write it down and
Yeah.
how to get.
Yeah.
Brett?